Hello, my friends from the internet. Survive with Knife here again. Today I'm going to do a review on a knife. I'm not really planning on doing a lot of reviews on this channel, unless there's something that I really like and I just have to talk about, which is the case today. Mainly I plan on posting videos on my outdoor adventures, hunting, survival, and so forth, hiking and camping. But today I have to show a knife because I love this thing. This knife is my current EDC, and I am completely in love with it. And so, without further ado, here it is: the Zero Tolerance 350. I think I said it before, didn't I? I love this knife. So let's get into the review here. We'll put that out there so you guys can look at that piece of eye candy. Let's start off with the handle scales. The handle scales are a textured G10, which is my favorite handle material. Usually when I get a knife, I like to get it with G10 if it's available. The G10 here is a textured G10. It's a fairly fine texturing. I'll take a light and shine down there, see if you guys can see that. And because of that fine texturing, it does tend to pick up dirt. I noticed lint and just dirt, and so I do have to clean it sometimes. And whereas some other G10 knives don't do that, take the Spyderco Tenacious here. I don't really tend to have that problem. I do EDC this knife here also. It's a great knife. I'll actually lay it out here so you can kind of see it in comparison. So the G10 though on this knife is grippy. I would say it's a little grippier than my Tenacious right there. So I do like the feel. So the fact that it has that it does pick up dirt a little bit is really doesn't really bother me that much. Next thing we'll look at is the liners on this knife. They are skeletonized on, and actually more aggressively on the side that the liner lock is on. I'm going to hold it up here, see if you guys can see that. And we'll switch it to the other side. You can see there's some milling done right there. It's milled out. And also here on the back side of the knife, you can kind of see on the, once again, that is the liner locking side of the knife where it is milled out. So I kind of wish that they would have, on the side that does not contain the liner lock, from this point on, they don't have anything milled out at all. And I'm not really sure why they did that, because that would have lightened up the knife a little bit. But weight doesn't matter that much to me. But I know for some of you out there it does. So the 5.7 ounces that this knife comes in at, or 5.6 ounces, I believe. Yeah, 5.6 ounces. They might have been able to reduce that by skeletonizing that the non-liner locking side liner a little bit more. But the one thing I do like about these liners is they are thick liners. They are half the width of an already thick blade. And the other thing is, this is why I guess they probably call it zero tolerance. You'll see that liner lock, and this is going on to the next portion of my checklist, is flush with the surface of the blade there, and then goes almost a little bit past the center. So I think it's actually a little thicker than the blade itself, making it a very strong lock. I mean, this knife is, most of my knives, are pretty well made. They don't have much wiggle, but man, this knife here, it's a fixed blade. When this thing is locked, this is going nowhere. I don't expect that to ever fail on me. There's no back and forth wiggle, no sideways wiggle. This knife is definitely built to zero tolerances, that's for sure. So very, very good locking mechanism in this knife. Really like that. I do prefer liner locks over lockbacks. I know some of you guys out there do prefer the lockbacks, but for me, the liner lock is what I like, and that's mainly because of the one-handed opening and manipulation of the knife. That's why most of my knives I try to get liner locks. It's one of the things I look at. The other thing on this knife that made it a selling point for me, and this doesn't apply to many of you out there, but is the fact that the clip can be mounted on right side tip up, tip down, and left side tip up, tip down. My preference for carrying a knife is left side tip down. That is the way that I find that I can deploy the knife quickly. And I am deploying it from my left pocket. I'm actually right-handed, but due to an injury to my right hand, deploying a knife is difficult with my right hand, so I just do it with my left hand now. So my knife always carries in my left hand pocket, and preferably tip down if possible. So if you see, like for example, the Spyderco Tenacious does the same thing here. You know, it's got the ability to carry the clip left, right, tip up, tip down. So that's one thing I do like to look for in knives. A lot of manufacturers out there, especially Kershaw, I think is one that's guilty of this a lot. Is, you know, they mainly mount the clip just for right hand, and so there's a lot of knives out there that I simply don't buy because I know, even though I think they're really cool, I don't buy them because I don't expect that I'm going to carry them. I'm not as much a knife collector as I'm a knife user. So I like to be able to use my knives, and I just know that if I can't carry it the way that I like to carry it in my left-hand pocket, I don't end up carrying the knife. It just ends up sitting in my knife drawer. So that is why when I've been buying knives, I've been really considering that as a big condition on whether I purchase that knife or not. So zero tolerance, and Kershaw did it right with this one here by tapping it for all 4 carry positions. The other thing on this knife is the handle spine. The reason I bring this up and actually have it as a category, bump the camera there a little bit, is this has a solid, I'm not actually sure what that is, if that's like FRN or just plastic insert, but I prefer knives with posts in the back because that makes it much easier to clean. You see the Tenacious is that way. I'm going to bring out the Ontario Rat 1. You see that's that way. This knife here, by the way, is a tank, but it's posted in the back, and I really like that in knives. And the zero tolerance does not have that, but you know, it's not a deal breaker for me. Here's the Buck Vantage, I think, and you can see that that's also the same way. When a knife is a liner lock, I mean, I can understand when it's a back lock that it does, you know, it's completely filled in on the back, or a lock back. But this here is a liner lock, so I do wish that they would post these, but that's the way it is. So still love the knife. Jimping. Jimping on this knife is it's actually some very large jimping, and when it comes to jimping actually being on the blade portion, there really isn't any, other than there are these 2 serrations, or actually 3 on the back here, on the portion of the blade that is actually behind the pivot point, or parallel to the pivot point. But there is no jimping up here in the thumb ramp position, but this thumb ramp is very comfortable, and it's really the only knife that I have that has a dip in the blade right here for the thumb to sit in. And it does sit in there very comfortably and allows you to choke up on the knife. And I really like that, actually. There is jimping also on the back of the knife for a reverse grip right there. I don't know how necessary that is, but it is there, and it's not uncomfortable at all. So I do like that. The blade steel is S30V. The one thing about this knife, its big brother would be the zero tolerance 300, and this knife is really less than half the price of the 300, but yet they didn't compromise with any of the quality, and they're using the same steel. So S30V, very good steel, holds an edge very well. Very sharp. Directly from the factory. I did strop it a little bit when I got it, which made it even a little finer, but it already had a very good edge on it. And going on to the next thing, the factory edge, I mean, just let's take a look at this. I mean, that is That is phenomenal. Maybe I didn't get that on camera. So I mean, this will shave hair without any issue. So the factory edge on this thing is very good. The blade shape I would classify as a drop point, except for this thumb position right here. And it has a little bit of a curve up here, but there are some other drop point knives that are that way also. It has nice belly on it for cutting. It has a very strong point on it. The blade is fairly thick all the way to the point, and coming down in this drop point configuration here, almost centered like a spear point. Makes it for a very strong tip. So this would be a pretty good stabber. Probably not as good as the Tenacious or the Ontario Rat 1, but still a pretty good stabber, and yet retaining strength. I would say that the knife tip on this is probably much stronger than these other knives. So this knife here, I think, could serve, and this goes down to the knife roll. I think this knife, because of its blade shape and its strength, can serve multiple roles. I mean, this would serve, well in a self-defense situation, I believe, tactical purposes, survival purposes. You could lash this and make a spear out of it, and you could use this. I would feel comfortable, processing some wood and shelter building with this thing. It's very tough, so I wouldn't expect it to fail on me. And you could definitely use this to skin a deer or a hog and gut it. And utility purposes, it's got some good belly on it, which makes it good for just some everyday utility purposes. Okay, well, I'm going to stop the video now, and we're going to go on to part 2. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.